Welcome to the Darasa Online. My name is Mr. Laurent Ndonche. I'm going to present to you the topic of ecology. Our subject student is biology. And our topic is ecology. That's our main topic. And what we'll talk about today is ecological pyramid. Ecological pyramids. We discussed this topic, this subtopic basing on this question here. Question number 1. Why ecologists prefer to use pyramid of energy than pyramid of numbers and the biomass in presenting ecological parameters? In order we can discuss in detail this topic, let us see the detail of pyramid of numbers, pyramid of biomass, and the pyramid of energy. Then we will concentrate on this. Therefore, students, let us start by defining what is ecological pyramids. What is ecological pyramids? Student, ecological pyramids are graphical representation. Graphical representation of various ecological parameters at each trophic level. Each trophic level in the ecosystem. Therefore, in ecological pyramid, we'll have various ecological parameters which will be presented at which trophic level. Ecological parameters which may be considered here, ecological parameters include numbers, include biomass, include energy. Therefore, we can say ecological pyramid are graphical representation of various ecological parameters such as numbers, biomass, and energy at each trophic level in the ecosystem. My student, we have a new term here, trophic level. What is trophic level? What is a trophic level? Trophic level is a position. This is a position all position occupied by an organism in the ecosystem. Ecosystem. An organism occupies different positions in the ecosystem. Some organisms in the ecosystem are producers. Some are producers. Example, plants in the ecosystem are producers. Algae are producers. Some bacteria are producers. Other organisms in the ecosystem are consumers. Consumers. Take an example. Cow is a consumer in an ecosystem. An elephant is a consumer in an ecosystem. Lion is also a consumer in an ecosystem. Consumers are divided into several types. One is called primary consumers. These are herbivore. Take an example, cow. Organism which consume directly on producers. Take an example, zebra. Other organisms, they consume primary consumers. And this one here, they are called secondary consumers. Secondary consumers. Therefore, this one here are carnivore. They feed on primary consumers. Example, frog. Other organism consumes secondary and primary consumers. These are called tertiary consumers. Tertiary consumers. They feed on secondary consumers. Take example, a lion, leopard, cheetah, etc. But other organisms occupy the level of quaternary consumers. Quaternary consumers. Take an example, hawk, vachi. This one consumes on tertiary consumers and so on. Therefore, in trophic level, for organism to be in the same trophic level, they must have the same feeding behavior. They must have the same feeding behavior. For organisms, of the same trophic level, the same trophic level must have the same feeding habit. Feeding habit. My student, a lion and a leopard are placed in the same trophic level because a lion cannot consume leopard. A leopard also cannot consume lion. Therefore, they are placed in the same trophic level. Cow and a goat are placed in the same trophic level because a cow cannot feed on goat, as well as a goat cannot feed on a cow. That is trophic level. Now, in ecology, student, in ecology, there are 3 types of ecological pyramid. There are 3 types of ecological pyramids. And these 3, one is pyramid of numbers. My student is called the pyramid of numbers, not a pyramid of number. Pyramid of numbers. Second student is a pyramid of biomass. Biomass. And the last student is a pyramid of energy. If we check our question here, student, is why ecologists prefer to use a pyramid of energy than a pyramid of numbers and biomass in presenting ecological parameters. Let us see the detail of pyramid of numbers, pyramid of biomass, and the pyramid of image, then we will conclude our question. Now, student, pyramid of numbers. Ecologists use numbers to present organisms at various trophic levels. Therefore, pyramid of numbers is a graphical representation of numbers of organisms present at each trophic level. In a food chain or food web, or food web. The graphical representation of numbers of organisms present at each trophic level in a food chain or food web. Therefore, here, ecologists count the number of organisms. Therefore, this one here, student, include counting the number organism present at each trophic level. That is the way ecologists collect the data when want to draw a pyramid of numbers. Now, student, in forest ecosystem, in the forest ecosystem, take an example. The pyramid of numbers may be inverted. Why inverted, student? You find, for example, a single tree. For example, you find a single tree just a single tree let's say this is a single tree is providing food to many organisms. Take an example, caterpillars. Caterpillars also is eaten by few organisms. Take an example, blue titties. Therefore, a producer here is a tree. This is a producer. And this one here is a primary consumer. This one here are secondary consumers. My student, a tree now occupies the first trophic level. Therefore, this is the first trophic level. Caterpillar occupies now the second trophic level. Second trophic level, and the blue tilt occupies the third trophic level. Therefore, this is an inverted pyramid of number. This is an inverted pyramid of numbers. Why inverted? Because pyramid of numbers, the producers are supposed to be many than the consumers. But here, the producers are few, but consumers are many. Students, in aquatic ecosystem, student, the number of producers, take an example, phytoplankton, is always high compared to number of consumers. Therefore, you find the number of producers is large. The number of consumers is small compared to the number of producers. The number of the coming trophic level becomes small. The number of the other trophic level also is small. Therefore, here, in the lower, these are producers. This one here are primary consumers. This one are secondary consumers. This one here are tertiary consumers. The producers occupy the first trophic level. This is the first trophic level. Consumers occupy the second trophic level. The secondary consumers occupy the third trophic level. And the tertiary consumers occupy the fourth trophic level. For example, here, let's say this is a phytoplankton in aquatic ecosystem. This is a zooplankton. These are small fishes. And this one here are large fishes. Therefore, in aquatic ecosystem, the number of small fishes is small compared to the number of zooplankton. The number of small fishes is big compared to the number of large fishes. Therefore, this one here is the upright pyramid of numbers. Upright pyramid of numbers. Why is it upright? It's upright because the number of producers is large compared to the number of consumers in the ecosystem. That is how we draw the pyramid of numbers. We use a logarithm scale to draw this bar when showing the pyramid of numbers. What are the advantages of pyramid of numbers? What are the advantages of pyramid of numbers? My student, in a pyramid of numbers, it is simple to collect the data because we include only counting organisms. Therefore, it is simple to collect data. In a pyramid of numbers, does not involve killing organism. Therefore, this one does not involve killing of organisms. I hope you can add some advantages of pyramid of numbers. Let us see now the limitation of pyramid of numbers. Limitation of pyramid of numbers. My student, pyramid of numbers is limited as follows. 1. Pyramid of numbers considers only numbers, does not consider size. Therefore, one of the limitations of this, it ignores size of the organism. It considers only numbers. As a result, you find a single grass in the ecosystem is given the same status as a single tree. Take an example. A single grass is given the same status as a single mango tree. They are all considered as producers. It ignores the size. The second limitation of this, my students, the range of numbers is always great. The range of numbers is so great. Hence, it's difficult to put the numbers in scale. Difficult to represent the number in scale. My student, take an example. You have a single tree. You have 100 caterpillars depending on the same tree. How will you plot into scale? Is difficult. My student, some organisms like lion, like snake, are difficult to be counted because they are dangerous. Some organisms, such as lions, snake, etc., are difficult to be counted. My student, some organisms such as omnivore are difficult to know the specific trophic level. Difficult to assign the specific trophic level of some organism. Specific trophic level of some organisms. Such as human being can feed on different trophic level. Is really difficult to assign the specific trophic level. Now, students, let us see pyramid of biomass. The second kind of pyramid in ecology is a pyramid of biomass. It's good we start by knowing what is biomass. My student, biomass is a dry weight of an organism. Therefore, in the pyramid of biomass, organism must be killed, then dried. After there, you measure the dry weight. Is a dry weight of organisms. let us define a pyramid of biomass. This one here, my student, is a graphical representation. Graphical representation of relative biomass or dry weight of organisms at different trophic level. Trophic level in the ecosystem. The graphical representation of relative amount of dry mass of organism at different trophic level in a food chain or food web. Now, in data collection, organisms are killed, dried, then the weight is measured. The weight measured. Organisms here must be killed, after they are dried, then the weight measured. Ecologists prefer to use biomass to avoid water fluctuation within an organism. Take an example in a forest ecosystem. Let's say the producers here, maybe they have a mass of 20 kilograms per meter square. Primary consumers, let's say they have 16 kilograms per meter square. Secondary consumers, let's say they have 12 kilograms per meter square. And tertiary consumers, let's say they have 4 kilograms per meter square. Therefore, then the amount of biomass keeps on decreasing from bottom to the top. This one here, my students are called producers, primary consumers, secondary consumers, tertiary consumers. The producers occupy the first trophic level. This occupies the second trophic level, the third trophic level, and this one the fourth trophic level. That is an example of forest ecosystem. Let us see an example of aquatic ecosystem. In aquatic ecosystem, if you measure the mass of phytoplankton is always small compared to the mass of zooplankton. If you measure the dry mass of zooplankton is always below compared to the mass of small fishes, as well as when you measure the mass of small fishes is always low compared to the mass of big fishes. Take an example. We have phytoplankton here with 4 kilogram per meter. Now because it's aquatic, we call it volume. Then zooplankton, we have 80 kilogram per meter cubic because it's aquatic, say volume of water. Then let's say here small fishes is 16 kilogram per meter square, per cubic. Then let's say here 20 kilogram per meter cubic. These numbers, I'm just relating them. Therefore, this one here are producers, phytoplankton. Phytoplankton. This one here are primary consumers, let's say zooplankton. This one here are secondary consumers, let's say small fishes. And this one here, large fishes. This is the first trophic level, my students. This is the second trophic level, my students. This is the third trophic level. And this one here, my student, is the fourth trophic level. This is also inverted now pyramid of biomass. An inverted pyramid of biomass. My student, why ecologists use the pyramid of biomass? In order to solve problems of pyramid of numbers. Therefore, some of the advantages of this, of using pyramid of biomass than using pyramid of numbers, are as follows. This one here, my student, considers size. Considers size of organisms. Therefore, here the size of organisms is considered. For example, the size of phytoplankton compared to the size of zooplankton. Zooplankton compared to small fishes. Small fishes compared to large fishes. This one here considers the size. Since it considers size now, it is said to be accurate than a pyramid of numbers. Pyramid of numbers. Because this one, it can show the mass which is present in an organism. Now, students, I hope you at home you can add some of the advantages of pyramid of biomass. Now let us see the limitation of pyramid of biomass. Limitation of pyramid of biomass. My student, pyramid of biomass is destructive. Is destructive. Why destructive, student? Because it involves the killing. It involves the killing of organisms. Killing of organisms. My student, since it involves the killing, therefore it is laborious and also expensive. Expensive in terms of time and equipments. These are some of the disadvantages of pyramid of biomass. And also, my student, it is still difficult. to assign the trophic level. Assign the specific trophic level of some organisms. Especially organisms which can feed on more than one trophic level. Therefore, it's difficult even to show the decomposers, because decomposers can feed on more than one trophic level. My student, let us now see pyramid of energy. Pyramid of energy. Energy is the capacity of doing work. But the pyramid of energy is a graphical representation. Graphical representation of the relative amount of energy available at each trophic level. Per unit area and also per unit time. In this kind of pyramid, the data collection involves killing organisms also. It is like a pyramid of biomass, where organisms are killed. Data collection involves killing of organisms. Then, after killing, combustion. This pyramid of energy, my student, is never inverted. This kind of pyramid, it is never inverted. Since the energy always decreases from one trophic level to another trophic level. Decreases from one trophic level to another trophic level. When the energy is flowing, decreases from one trophic level to another trophic level. And my student, only 10% of the energy available in one trophic level flows to another trophic level. 90% is used in the same trophic level. Therefore, the pyramid of energy can never be inverted. Now, for example here, these are producers, then consumers, primary consumers, secondary consumers, tertiary consumers. Therefore, the energy available in the producers is transferred to primary consumers, but not all. Because the primary consumers student has to carry out physical and metabolic processes which requires energy. And also not all parts of primary consumers can be eaten by secondary consumers. Therefore, less amount of energy will be received. This one here, tertiary consumers. Therefore, my student, take an example here, is 10,000 kilojoule per meter square per year. Here only 10% will be transferred, which is now 1,000 kilojoule per meter square per year. Here only 10%, which is now 100 kilojoule per meter square per year. Here now is 10 kilojoule per meter square per year. This one here, my student, is the first trophic level, second trophic level, third trophic level, and this one is a fourth trophic level. If we go back to our question, why ecologists prefer to use the pyramid of energy than the pyramid of numbers and the pyramid of biomass in presenting ecological parameters? Therefore, we will get now the answers of this question from the advantages of pyramid of energy. My student, pyramid of energy shows the amount of production. This one, it shows the amount of production, the amount of energy produced. For example, here, these numbers 10,000 to 1,000, there is a specific calculation you can do, that only 10% of here will be transferred to here. If you ask it, why only 10%? Producers has to carry physical and metabolic processes which requires energy. Some parts of producers they cannot be consumed. My student, solar input also can be added. Solar input is added. That is also the advantage, because the source of energy in the ecosystem is the sun. Therefore, here my student, sun may be added in the ecosystem. My student, pyramid of energy shows the actual amount of energy transferred. Show the actual amount of energy transferred from one trophic level to another. From one trophic level to another trophic level. Shows the actual amount of energy transferred from one trophic level to another trophic level. My student, pyramid of energy can never be inverted. Therefore, it is very simple to interpret. It cannot be inverted. Therefore, you can interpret it in a simple way. Since you can interpret in a simple way, it gives a room of comparing different ecosystems. Therefore, it compares different ecosystems. It is simple to compare different ecosystems. That is my student. Therefore, from there now, you can provide the answers of this question here. Pyramid of energy is more preferred than the pyramid of numbers and the biomass by referring to the advantages of pyramid of energy. I hope you at home, you can study more about the pyramid of energy, biomass, numbers, and give more points than which I've given you here. In question number 2, because in the next lesson we'll discuss about habitat and ecological niche, it's good we start the introduction by knowing what is ecological niche and what is habitat. Then we'll get a room of differentiating them. My student, in ecological niche and habitat, organisms are found. Now, if they contain organisms, what is the difference between these two ecological terms? What is the difference between these two ecological terms? Question number 2. Here, my student, you at home, you can make a comparison table. Let's say here we have criteria in your comparison table. Let's say here we have ecological niche, and let's say here we have habitat. Make this comparison table, my student. Let us see the differences now between ecological niche and the habitat. My student, let us start with the definition. What is ecological niche and what is the habitat? My student, if we talk about ecological niche, here we talk about the role and the position occupied by organisms, by an organism which determine the interaction of that organism with either biotic or abiotic components. Therefore, for example, the role of plant in the ecosystem is to produce food. The position is the first trophic level. Now, how plant interact with the other organisms? How plant will interact with the biotic? For example, how plant interact with animals? How plant interact with bacteria? How plant interact with the fungi? And also how plant interact with the abiotic such as the soil. But my student, habitat is a physical place. Physical place where organisms live. For example, we human beings, we live on land. Fishes live in water. Therefore, we can have terrestrial habitat and the aquatic habitat. A physical place where organisms live, where organism can find a mate, where organism can find food, that is habitat. My student, let us consider on the types of this. We have two types of ecological niche, my student. And the one is fundamental niche. Fundamental niche and realized niche. Realized niche. In a fundamental niche, there is no interspecific competition, while in a realized niche, there is interspecific competition. Therefore, you find, for example, this is organism A, and this is organism B. This is A, this is B. There is an overlap here, where interspecific competition occurs. Interspecific competition is a struggle between organisms of different species. In a fundamental niche, for example, this is organism A and this is organism B. Therefore, here, my student, there is no overlap. There is no interspecific competition. While the habitat, we can have terrestrial habitat, we can have aquatic habitat, we can have also aerial habitat. aerial, sometimes arboreal habitat. The third criteria, my student, which you can use ecological niche. In habitat, you have said also aerial, we call arboreal sometimes, arboreal habitat. The third criteria which you can use, we can see behavior or the role. Behavior of this organism. In niche, we check the feeding habit, how organisms feed, kind of food organism consumes. We check maybe where is an organism with a parasite, maybe is a predator. We check organism is eaten by which organism. While in habitat, we don't consider feeding habit. Therefore, here feeding habit and so on are not considered. Hope you at home you can add many differences between ecological niche and habitat. It's my hope that you have understood the issues of ecological pyramids to differentiate ecological niche and habitat. Never plan to miss next lesson. See you.